What are the best hero classes, and which one should you pick on your lord? That's what this video is going to be about. This is a highly requested video that I haven't really wanted to make because I just personally don't think it's that interesting to me. Because I don't really like making videos that are stifling creativity, so to speak. It is fairly clear if you play this game that there are certain heroes that are just blatantly better than other heroes. It's also fairly clear that there are not that many good choices for what you're going to pick first on your lord. That's because certain choices just blatantly overshadow other choices due to certain game mechanics. The largest game mechanic is melee, the zone of control, and retaliation attacks, which should be pretty simple to explain. Now, this video will be primarily going over the Champion and Wizard King and what's best on them, but this should also be applicable for the most part to Dragon Lord and Giant King. There are some special builds you can do for those two with some of their stuff, but we're not going to be going that in depth over them. The least in depth we'll be going over is the Eldritch Sovereign, who will primarily only really be in this part here. That is because the Eldritch Sovereign has a lot of unique spells and a lot of unique abilities, and he kind of pushes the Elementalist class far beyond where it reasonably is. If we're talking about Elementalist, we will be talking, of course, about Elementalist as a normal character and not as an Eldritch Sovereign. That's because, as I'll explain later, the Elementalist has a lot of base buffs to damage and effects like that, which the Eldritch Sovereign can use very well. Unfortunately, the Elementalist doesn't have his own damage, so he can boost his damage a lot, but his spells are very weak, so it kind of cancels out. The Eldritch Sovereign just uses them and takes it to like 20 out of 10. So we're not going to go over him. He's just too unique and we kind of distract from the video in its entirety. Before I go that much further into it, do make sure to like, do make sure to subscribe, and do make sure to leave a comment down below. All these things help me, and I'm getting this out of the way because this video will be very long and very rambly. I will be trying to show as many examples as I can, and do treat this video more like a podcast than a checklist. I will be going a tier list, and I will be talking about the best and the worst hero classes, the best and the worst for your lord, but reasonably, this will also be me trying to explain a lot of concepts, so it's just going to be best to listen along, and a lot of people do watch everything, so I'm going to try to... this will be interesting to watch, I guess is what I'm saying. So, as I did mention, there aren't that many great choices for what to take in your lord. Now, that's because of melee. Melee is very powerful in the early game. As I've mentioned in a lot of my other videos, the minimum XP division for, well, the minimum unit division for XP is 6, meaning if you have 2 units, it divides the XP you get from a battle as if you had 6. If you have 6 units, it divides it as if you had, well, 6. If you have 7, it divides it as if you had 7. Do you get it? So, going below 6 units doesn't help you get XP to your lord and heroes. Going above 6 units does hurt you get XP to your lord and heroes. So you always want to be at least 6. Most, if your early game fights, are going to be 6v a number less than 6. 6v3, 6v4, 6v5. Wonders will generally be 6v6. You might sometimes even be outnumbered. But generally speaking, melee is going to start really excelling in these smaller scale fights. As anyone who's played a real-time strategy game, a turn-based game, melee just does way better in these smaller scale fights because of zone of control, locking enemies in melee, and just generally being very powerful from that perspective. Warriors really excel at this. The best class, as we're going to say right now, is warrior. It's just pretty obvious. The best singular class for your lord is going to be warrior. They are outrageously powerful early game, and they are very, very easy to build to be very, very powerful. If I see right here, I'm gonna load this save. I kind of set this up to show you guys. After this, we're gonna have to do tests in the wild, but this one was a combat that I just ran real quick to show you some stuff. Here's my melee lord. He ran up, he hit an enemy because he's very, very fast and has a big weapon. The enemy hit him back, took a retaliation, and then all the enemies tried to swarm around him to kill him. Obviously, this is not working out very well for them, as you might imagine. We can now very easily kill everything around us. And thanks to our lord just beating the crap out of them, they're all already gone. We just need some healing for our Lord, and he will do very strong. Locking all the enemies in melee is strong. If I'm fighting a stack, an enemy stack, and it is 2 support units, I can run real quick up to one of them, and it is effectively removed from the battle. I already hit him with this big melee lance attack. I'm very long range due to my ability to just sprint across the entire battlefield and reach out to them. So we're very long ranged. We can shut down support units. And if we have 2 melee units and a Lord who's also melee, then these 4v4s will end up being very easy. Anytime the enemy has range units, anytime the enemy has support units, battle mages, anything like that, we will just easily, absolutely annihilate them. You can see here, once again, even in this situation, we run all the way over here and bam, look at that damage. Ah, don't shoot my own dude. What are you doing? It's treason. Treasonous behavior. So how do we level a warrior then? How do we get them to be strong? In this particular example, it's a bit not a great example because I am actually using a feudal monarch. Feudal monarchs get 10% more damage, which has the unfortunate side of screwing with a lot of the numbers we're going to show. So we're actually going to show you a warrior. I've set him up now. He should be properly in feudal aristocracy. Yes. So in... Oh, shoot, you're a defender. Oh, you idiot. Why are you a defender? Why are you a defender? Why are you doing that, buddy? I can tell he's a defender because he got that sword and shield. Unless he's a warrior with a sword and shield. Don't be a warrior with a sword and shield. Be a warrior with a lance. That's just better. Oh, okay, he was a warrior with a sword and shield. Don't do that. Go warrior with lance. Why lance? Because you're on a mount. You go really, really fast. 48 movement speed. You run up to enemies and jam them with the lance and you do a crap load of damage. They try to run away, you jam them again with a crap load of damage and it kills them. But how well, then, can we scale warrior? And how quickly can we scale warrior? The answer might surprise you. Very, 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 very quickly does warrior scale out of control. There's some heroes which are a bit backloaded, like Ritualist. There's some heroes which kind of have a power spike, like Warlock. And there's some heroes that start the game good and then just keep getting better, like Warrior. Now, as we do begin this game, you do see we are strong. Strong will, of course, give us 4 more damage on our charge strike. Warrior scales very, 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 very well with strong. So we go from 21 damage all the way to 25 already, which will then be increased to 60% more as we charge enemies. So maybe I shouldn't be using strong to show you guys, but strong is generally, well, strong. So particularly if you're trying to make a strong warrior, it's a good idea to have strong. Okay, so let's level this dude up using very legitimate tactics. I mean, if you guys want to watch me play out like 7 battles in a row, I could probably do that, but it would be easier to do this. So a strong warrior has 25 damage. As we put a point in Berserker, we go up to 28 damage due to rounding. So we begin the game at 25 damage, we're already at 28. We put a point in our second wind here, so we can now heal 15 at the beginning of the battle, and after we get every kill, we heal 15. Paladin has to spend like 3 points just to get that. So we have more range, we have slippery to get to exactly what we want to, and we heal 15 every single time we take a battle. That's pretty good. We put a point here in fighting, because we like to fight. Unfortunately, that 10 doesn't round too well. So what we can do in this situation is just put a point here, grab a point in frenzy, and then what do? We grab initiative order to zeal, because we have the Berserker for 10%. That 4 off zeal, well, I should say the 2 off zeal doubles to 4. It gets 10% more to 5. So we begin the game, we have 25 damage with strong. Now at level 4, instead of 25 damage, we now have 33 damage. And it gets even better because we have frenzy. So we get 20% more damage on the first attack. Well, I shouldn't say on the first attack. After the first attack, we get 20% more damage. If they try to leave our zone of control, we actually get 40% more damage. We'll already be at 4 stacks of strength end. So that's definitely one way to build your character. We have a heal. We have 10 more HP. You can see we're already kind of tanky here. Although that is somewhat due to feudal aristocracy, that one. And generally, this is just going to be a strong early game build. At this point, I think we can do this. There we go. Let's just slam some points into our dude here right now. At this point, we're already like we've already outscaled pretty much every other hero. I mean, there's some like Warlock who can scale as well as us, but Warrior, one of the things that just makes him so diabolical is he hits level 4 and he's already a truck. Now, something to worth mention, you don't have to put a point in Zeal, you could put a point in anything. Every single hero in the game gets to reroll once for free. That's true. So if I was to do this and I was like, oh no, I didn't like this build, you can reset once. Every hero can. Heroes you buy can do that, and your starting lord can do that. So you can actually go with builds that are good for leveling, and then you can reset them later after you get more affinity to get the proper things here. So you can go with XP, you can go with reduced upkeep, you can do any of this stuff, reset it. So what would be strong here? Hypothetically. So, and I'm just saying hypothetically, we could grab 2 enchantments here. I don't always, but sometimes you can. We can get more damage, but you don't always have to do that. We can get this once you get to the 10, 10, 30% damage here from fighting. It rounds it again. So now we get 666. So we're just using a generic tier 1 weapon here. And we are already, as you can see this would be a mere level 7 build here. Level 7 build, just grabbing damage, strengthened, and all this. We've gone from 25 damage to 45 damage. That's with a tier 1 weapon. 45 damage with strengthened on every hit. Eat your heart out, Paladin. Level 7 Paladin starts like turning online. Well, I should say Battle Same Paladin, but Warrior at level 7. Well, I guess this would be technically a level 8 build because we need the second affinity. Like, oh my god. And this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Like, oh my god. Some of you guys just do not understand how crazy Warrior gets. So here's an early game build for Warrior. How would we build this character late game? Well, late game Warrior can be a bit complicated. He can be a bit interesting. Let's just go for level 16. After that, you're kind of chucking points around. I've lost track of this. What level are we? 15? Okay, there we go. Here's level 16. Are you level 16? Here's level 16 Warrior. Generally speaking, I would say this is a pretty solid choice. We don't really have anything to do here. We literally can't get anything else. We get everything else. Maybe I should show you on the website, but I think showing it right in front of you is pretty good, right? So if we did want to reset this, maybe we wouldn't want 2 things here, right? And look at it, we get the 1 free reset. I mean, and that's just important to show you guys. The 1 free reset is pretty good. And let's say we pick some affinity skills over here. I don't know. Let's say we had Faithful. Let's say we want to get Keeper's Mark. Let's say we want to get Zealous. Let's say we chose something over here. I'm just going to leave this as is. Berserker is very strong. Second Wind is strong. Damages, you might not believe, is strong. Cleaving Sweep allows us to kill people pretty good. HP, Unyielding, both of these are strong. We can grab either of these. War Seeker is good. Willbreaker is good. Okay. War Seeker, you do need to kill someone every single turn, but if you do kill someone every single turn, you do get 30 more maximum hit points, you do get up to 30% more damage, but it's kind of easy to lose War Seeker. On the other hand, Willbreaker is seeing a lot of interesting use. That's because Vicious Killer is very strong. If you kill an enemy unit or even 2 enemy units with killing momentum, Vicious Killer can cause entire army routes. It's a bit funny. Willbreaker itself is also a bit funny. Whenever you kill a unit, enemies within 3 hexes of that unit suffer 2 weakened and remorse. Remorse will make them lose morale every turn. So Willbreaker over here, which we can get from this is a pretty, I mean, look at this. I mean, how many points do we have to spare already? We still have 7 points to spare. Oh my god, like, look at other classes and then look at this. Like, look at this. I'm already at 165 HP. I'm 165 HP. Let's grab some defense. And let's grab some more HP. There's 180. How the heck am I at 180? Because we're at max renown feudal aristocracy. Okay, so do mind this a little bit. We'd only be 140 HP normally, but we're feudal aristocracy. In this situation, we could do a lot of different things. So let's grab strengthened. Now over here, these are some interesting choices. Reckless Rage. You sunder, you defense and resist by 1 to get 30% damage. That's worth it, period. That's just worth it. Like, there's almost no downside. You can also go with Keen Edge. Keen Edge is good just to get 20% crit. And then you can actually, if you get this HP, you can get the 20% crit and then actually grab Reckless Rage as well, which is a bit funny. I think that Keen Edge is better in every single situation. Sundering Strikes, I don't think anyone would disagree with me. Keen Edge is just better. Now, the only downside, if you do go with Reckless Rage, that does mean you can't get critical momentum. That does mean you can't get execute. Being able to be a free action kill can RNG you potentially up to 3 kills in a turn, which is kind of wild, actually, when you notice it, right? You can always hit an enemy. So you can kill an enemy, execute an enemy, get your reset on your attack, kill another enemy. Like, this stuff can start going a bit crazy. The Grim Executioner gives you 3 fortune, but fortune's kind of easy to stack, so this is why I'm kind of recommending this route here. It's easy to stack fortune, but it's hard to stack 30% more damage, because that's just free. I mean, they don't want you to know this, but you can just take this. Now, of course, you can, of course, go with Reckless Charge. You can't go with this charge route. For the purpose of this video, I think this is just generally a better build. This is just generally a tanky build. This is a strong build. This is a build you can do by level 16. You can grab Experienced Leader to help your army. You could grab Decisive Command. I think Decisive Command is invaluable. Putting even your first point in Decisive Command and slowing down your power spike could be helpful, because Decisive Command is pretty good, and it makes your hero stop acting like an idiot if you do auto battles. Often, if you auto battle, they'll act like an idiot. It's just stupid of them. Anyway, Warriors. This Warriors, here's a good solid build I would recommend. Very strong class, possibly the strongest class in the game. They did nerf Warriors, and they did generally nerf every hero class. Unfortunately, like, I think Warrior was above everyone, but then they nerfed everyone, so the average hero power went like down, but Warrior was still on top, which is kind of funny when you think about it. So now let's talk about the second strongest hero class. Who do you think the second strongest hero class is, based on everything I just said? Is it Warrior? Is it... It's Defender. I mean, obviously it's Defender. Why is it Defender? Because, as we just mentioned, and we mentioned a lot, locking enemies in melee is outrageously powerful. You know who's really good at locking enemies in melee? A dude who specializes in locking enemies in melee. Shocking, I know that. Now, as I do look at my tier list, which I probably won't show you guys, we have Warrior on the top, but then we have Defender and Death Knight. Death Knight, which I'll get into after this, is kind of like Warrior, but it's like Warrior, but, and in a lot of ways that does just make Death Knight Warrior. He's just side grade Warrior. So technically you could argue Death Knight is stronger than Defender, but Defender does have a lot of things that he's pretty good at here.
Choose your first.
There are a few ways to build Defender, and there are a few things you can do with Defender, but I would say the primary advantage of Defender is, once again, this level 4 power spike, this ability to hit people really, really hard at level 4. You know, I should maybe not use Feudal Aristocracy for this one, because it makes it look like they have more health than they do, but I'm going to assume that you guys are smart people and you can understand I'm playing Feudal Aristocracy and this won't be normal. If you are playing Defender, I would say there's 2 ways to enter the game. Number 1 is with Veteran's Pike. Now, if you have athletics or some sort of mobility or anything like that, Veteran's Pike is outrageous. In the late game, you want to be using a pike on Defender. I do believe pikes are straight up better than shields. There are some arguments for shields, but in my opinion, generally speaking, your itemization should revolve around a pike. That 40% more damage against cavalry, that 40% more damage against large targets adds up a lot. Even right at the start of the game, you have 2 retaliations with this and 16 damage. 16, 32, 48 damage. At 40% of that, you're doing over 60 damage on a triple attack against a large target. That's on a tier 1 Defender with nothing else. So Veteran's Pike, pretty good pike. But let's just say you want to go with the Sword and Shield. Which one should you go with? Should you go with the Tyrant Sword and Shield? No. Should you go with the Captain's Sword and... Axe and Shield? It's pretty cool to have an axe, but, well, frankly, no. You should go with Sword and Shield. Now, why is that? Because Sword and Shield gives you a helmet and it gives you a mount. Captain's Axe and Shield actually doesn't give you a mount. It's kind of silly. None of these give you a mount. Do you want to go with Fist Weapons? No. No, they're pretty bad, these fist weapons. They don't do more damage. They do a combo. You have leap, but you're 32 movement speed, and arguably you're not really going to be any better than a Veteran's Pike. In fact, I don't think this will ever be better than a Veteran's Pike. I think for Martial Cestus to be good, its damage will have to be buffed by +2 base. Realistically, they don't really exist. Now, there's also some other ones you can go with. Lasher's Sword and Shield. This one, Giant Slayer Spear. I don't think Giant Slayer Spear is any good. It's just a worse version of Veteran's Pike. Unfortunately, if we're talking about like what's best to go in a video like this, you can be creative, you can be unique, you can do anything you want, and that's fine. And that's kind of why I didn't want to do this video, because I don't want to like stifle your creativity. But at the end of the day, realistically, you have two options: Veteran's Pike or Sword and Shield. So let's talk about Sword and Shield then, because generally speaking, it's outrageously good to have 48 movement speed. So what makes this Sword and Shield so good? Okay, we entered the game with 12 damage, a mere 12 damage, but we do have a shield. So we have 2 stats, 2 defense, 2 resistance, 80 HP. The shield brings us into 5 defense if we are fighting a front-facing enemy. Now, a lot of enemies will do magic damage, but a lot of them won't. In fact, I would argue it's pretty easy in the early game to notice who does and does not do magic damage. If we look over here, do these guys have people hidden with them? No. I want to find someone maybe better than the warg to fight, but you know what? Maybe just fight this warg. I'm just gonna manual this and let's see if we can. I mean, obviously it's like 6v2, so we're gonna win, right? But I just want to show you guys. Let's see. Here's their range. So let's just go up here, shield wall. And can you guys hit anyone else? No. Okay. So here's our hero sitting up here, shield wall. They run up, hit him 7. They run up, hit him 7. Well, 8. How did that round out? Well, actually, that was our defender. Well, they would have the same defense from the front. At any rate. So they all look the same. Don't tell them I said that. At any rate, they would not take much damage from the front. So in comes our dude here. We hit enemies, we get retaliated against, but we're too tanky for it to matter. Our other shield dude comes in here, and this is what makes melee so strong. Do you see how these melee units support each other? One of them can eat the retaliation for the other one, and they end up both taking less damage for it. So it just ends up, like, having one melee unit is good, having 2 melee units, like, actually makes it better. It's just generally how it works, right? And then what is he gonna do? Is he gonna try to attack us? So he, once again, he tries to run at a range, but he eats that retaliation attack. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty typically just how it's gonna go, right? The retaliation attack is really strong, and the melee is really strong. How strong can we get these defenders then? How strong can we get these dudes in the early game? We got strong, so it goes from 12 damage to 14 damage. How strong then can we get these defenders? Okay, so let's just get you once again level 4. I think level 4 is like your big power spike, so it's kind of good to talk about. Level 4. How strong can we get a defender at level 4? Once again, let's just do initiative order, grab zeal. We go from 14 damage to 16 damage. We get extra retaliation damage and opportunity damage, 20%. We grab leaden blows, we get another 2 damage, and we get taunt. Now, why is this build so good? Particularly, by the way, if you have that Veteran's Pike. Veteran's Pike plus taunt, like, you will love me if you go Veteran's Pike and taunt. Just go athletics or something, go like athletics strong with that build, like holy crap. Oh, and do remember, we do have careless in this build, so we'd actually take even less damage if we had defense mode. That's just something to remember. So we now are doing up to 18 damage on those single target hits, big damage. And we have Sentinel, so if we are retaliating against enemies, I do believe that'll round to 21 damage. A retaliation will be 21. If they try to walk out of melee with that, that's 21. That's big damage right there. And we have Taunt, so we can run up and taunt enemies. If I could actually show you how good Taunt is, let me see if I can do that. There's an enemy fight up here. Taunt is one of those things on Defender that's just like, yeah, here we go. Let's show you guys Taunt. No, you get out of here, Scout. There we go, Taunt. Scout, get out of here. Hopefully I don't get resisted. If I get resisted, it'll be kind of embarrassing. But once again, we got the same thing. If you ever want to build manual battles and cheat and win, by the way, enemies will always attack if they can. It's just kind of weird like that. But let's run up, taunt the Pyromancer. Now, so long as they cannot reach another person, I'm kind of telling you how to cheat. So we can do a double shield wall here. But as long as they cannot reach another target, they will always, oh, okay, I moved you up too far. They will always run up and just attack who they can. It's kind of weird that they do that, but they do, in fact, do that. So let's do this, and you can see here, they run up, attack. Wow. Oh my god, the Pyromancer used web to try to attack. So because of the double defense mode, we took like almost no damage. And now look at this. Look at that damage. Look at that damage. Well, okay then. You actually got rooted. That's kind of funny. And once again, we are in another situation. Let's run you up and perform blocking. We're in yet another situation where, unfortunately, the enemies... And in fact, actually, I want to show you something here. This should work like how I think it is. If I end my turn here, while he's taunted, let's watch. Oh, because I was slowed, I didn't get the retaliation. Oh, dang. But you can see because he's taunted, he's not doing anything. He's just sitting here like a moron. And once again, our melee are blocking everything, which is why melee is so good. Bam, bam. Look at that damage, because that's flanking, right? You run up, bam, bam. You guys run up, bam. And just because of this defender with taunt, we can just cruise through every one of these early fights. Even on auto battle, you'd be cruising through these early fights. Defenders also in the late game, if you do decide to respec, let's once again look at the late game here. I have to do this a lot. I could show you on the website, but I got the big UI here, and well, frankly, you know, big UI, it's cool. You guys can see it in real time. You guys can't see the affinity, but I mean, you're gonna have to make up the affinity yourself, right? Like, I can't tell you everything. So let's look at like a late game build here. Now, once again, we can respec at any given point in time. You always get one of those. Let's go here. Let's go here. None of these really matter. We're not gonna put a point in them. Just imagine we got a bunch of points over here, right? How are we gonna get into late game? Now, if we do continue, by the way, to level up, you could go pushing attack, and you could go pushing attack into aggressive push. Pushing attack does leave you in defense mode, making you really tanky. And if you do decide to go pushing attack, because strong, do look at strong, it's melee and physical attacks deal more damage, not base attacks. So strong will actually make this pushing attack deal 34. If you get aggressive pushing, it deals to 40, which then goes to 44, which then, by the way, if you get zeal, because do remember, zeal affects all damage. That's why I think it's so good. So if you actually were hypothetically to do this, you can see this pushing attack is at 48 damage. So for a single AP, we could run into an enemy, smack them, displace them, end in defense mode. That's like a charge attack. I mean, it's not as good as a charge attack, but we end in defense mode as well. So, I mean, just something to think about right there, right? But if we were playing defender, there's two lines of thought. Some people like going down the left, some people like going down the right. My personal opinion is I think going down the right is generally better. When you're in defense mode, this unit and all allies receive 2 defense, generally pretty good. You can go for Vanguard to get resistance and status resist. Offensive Vanguard I think is better because you do need damage multiplier. This and adjacent friendly units deal 10% more damage, that's a pretty good one. Reinforced or warded, I think warded is better because you get to go to the left side of the tree, and generally magic damage is better than ranged damage. If any ranged unit is shooting a defender, they should just go away forever. I mean, they're silly. They're a silly dude. Stunning Bash allows you to run up and stun an enemy. It's okay. It's like 120%, but against higher tier units, it's not really going to be that great. And as we mentioned down here, well, we're always going to be in defense mode anyway. Reflecting Defense basically stops enemies from attacking you. With damage reflection, when you're in defense mode, 50% of all damage is reflected. Even if an enemy hits you out of defense mode, boom, you reflect 50% of that damage. So this just generally makes enemies not want to target you to begin with. This one also makes all your attacks afflict weakened, and it's increased if it's a retaliation attack. And you always end your turn in defense mode. This right here, you can see here, I mean, that's not a lot of butts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You could get this pretty early in the game if you wanted to, if you skip Zeal or anything like that. Even if you didn't skip Zeal, I think you get this at level 8. And then at this point, you also have a lot of things you can do down here. So adaptive armor, whenever you're hit with non-physical damage, you get more, well, resistance. greater resistance down here, giving you that coveted resistance. You've got graceful defense down here. And then depending on what you need, you got 20% more damage or 30% more hit points. The hit points are generally probably going to be better on a defender because, frankly, you don't have that much HP. Now you go HP here, HP here. Are we still liege here? No, I think that should just be normal. We have Liege Lord, but we're only at 10, so it'd be 130 HP here. So regular defender would be 130 HP. There's no other HP here, so it's not too great. The other thing you can do is bam into Leaden Blows. Leaden Blows just generally gives you more damage, also helps you slow people, which could really screw them up. And lastly, I would just, generally speaking, recommend Zeal, because it's just good. Zeal or any other effect. And then you can see here, with this 10% damage here, it will actually rank this up. So a build like this makes you pretty tanky. The more points you sink in, the better, because you could get Taunt. You could get Frontline Fighter to make yourself even tankier, even less killable. After that, you could get Vigor. There's 15 more hit points. Like, Defender scales pretty well with skills. Like, the more skills you have, the more levels you have, the better. If you get the Trainer Ogre and you get even more, I mean, it's even better. I mean, you can get Frontline Fighter. Every time you're not being flanked, you get more damage. You get more HP. I mean, that's pretty good. People like HP. People like more damage reduction. Defender can get really strong. You get a Spear at this point. Put some boots to get movement speed on him. This dude is going to be very damaging. And remember, all this damage gets multiplied by 40% against large targets. What are the good late game enemies that are large? Literally everything except a Pyro Templar. Almost every mythic unit is large, to my knowledge. I think pretty much all of them are. I only say almost every mythic unit is large because, to my knowledge, they all are. There might be one or two. Maybe Mirror Mimic isn't large. Like, that's about it. All the racial tier 4 units are large as well, outside of Stormbringer and Pyro Templar. All those charge units, large. Everything about that, large. Warbreed, shockingly, large. Because he needed more drawbacks. He just wasn't bad enough. So, this is a pretty good build for Defender. You always end in defense mode as well. Get 1 grace on entering defense mode. So, if your enemies don't target you, you'll easily build up 3 grace, which then just makes you very frustrating when they do target you. They do try to harass you, or you do taunt someone and they try to hit you. You get that bolstered resist, status protection, very frustrating. You can also just go for Rallying Cry. I didn't get it here, but I would actually recommend you do get Rallying Cry, because this is the start of a battle. You can grab this. This gives Rally, which allows you to just restore some morale to everyone. It gives you bolstered defense. Now, if you do use this in the middle of a battle, I wouldn't really recommend it. Attacking with a defender is pretty good due to how much damage they deal. But attacking with a defender is just generally going to outperform it. But you do give allies Watchful. Watchful gives them +1 retaliation attack. Useful in a pinch, but Rallying Cry is just good at getting your defense up pretty early in a battle and just, you know, restoring a little bit of morale in a pinch if you really need it. Warding Bond can also be a potentially good option here if you're using a defender that isn't your lord, because this is the coveted transfer damage with a 50% reduction. If you Warding Bond an ally, generally speaking, it would be outright stupid to try to still hit that ally. You don't want to hit the ally if it's warded by a defender. And as I mentioned, you have this graceful defense, so you might just heal by enemies trying to hit your ally. And as always, you're just going to be a truck. Do remember to get Offensive Vanguard. That's where a lot of your damage comes from, and it does help your allies a lot. It does allow Defender to be quite tanky, quite damaging. I do think Defender is the second best. Warrior is generally just stupid. Warrior Berserker is just, he's stupid, he's strong, he's powerful. You don't really need to think much. Run up and hit enemies. Grr. Defender takes a little bit longer to get online. There is, of course, the build. You just put a point here, a point here. You can just grab Pushing Attack as well, or you could grab Taunt. Both of them are fine. I would say 1, 2, Taunt, Zeal. That's generally your good early game combo. Very good early game combo for Defender. I would recommend it. Certainly, probably better than a Paladin at any rate. Paladins are. Well, we'll get into them. So, at any rate, yes, Defender's quite good as well. Now let's talk then about Death Knight, but not for long, because you'll quickly see why we're not going to talk about Death Knight for long. Death Knight is Warrior. Warrior is Death Knight. Death Knight was originally meant to be a hybrid in between Warrior and Warlock, and then they, Warrior and Warlock, but they eventually split Warlock into its own thing, rather than just making it like half of, what did the class used to be? The Ritualist used to be like the healer or whatever, and it was like half a summoner and half a healer, and it was like really weird and jank, and it just allowed the healers to spec into the Warlock for the early game so they could get the summons to clear the map, and then later in the game they would just spec into the healing, so it was like really kind of lame because you just got a healer who's really good at clearing the map. That's not to say healers are bad at clearing the map, but they were maybe a bit too good at it, at any rate, for a class that was so outrageously powerful late game. So, remember when we were talking about Warrior? Hopefully you do, it was only like 10 minutes ago. Do you notice anything similar about this tree? If we look right here, this is basically the Warrior tree ripped out and split into two different parts. If we were to just look here at level 4, you might understand. I need to do this. Boop, boop, boop. If we were to look here at level 4, you might understand really quickly that yes, this is just Warrior. Here's Zeal, here's Knight instead of Berserker, even though I think Berserker is better. Here's Fleet Footwork, and here's Damage. Or we could go Frenzy. Wait, they're the same thing. Yes, they kind of are. Death Knight, for the most part, is just Warrior. He has a couple differences. Those are the main ones, that Sundering Sweep has a longer cooldown but counts as a debuff ability. This does allow him to apply a couple debuffs to enemies. The only downside, frankly, realistically, is that you don't really want to leave your Death Knight in melee of enemies that you've just debuffed, because now they might just get cleansed and kill you. Generally, you don't want your lord to die. There's only one culture in the entire game that can stop your lord from being murdered, and that's feudal aristocracy, unless you use a defender as your second hero, which is kind of common. Your second hero being Ritualist is outrageously common. Your second hero being defender is somewhat common. A lot of people use their third hero because he only needs to get a couple points for warding bond. At any rate, Sundering Sweep, man, that much of a damage penalty to be counted as a debuff ability ain't great, and the amount less damage it does ain't great. Yeah, better than that, you can see here damage, health. He does have Terrifying Aura. Terrifying Aura is an automatic 5 morale loss. It can be helpful, but again, leaving your warrior in melee of enemies is not a great idea. Well, I guess a Death Knight, not a warrior. They could give Death Knight some shenanigans in the next expansion, but just for now, this entire tree is kind of out of date. This tree is a good one. You can grab Raised Dead into Soul Keeper, into Bone Wyvern. A free Bone Wyvern in the early game is not too bad. You can take the Bone Wyvern to clear the early map and then respec him later. I still think reasonably he's got options, but reasonably he's just Warrior Part 2. Eventually, once you max everything out, you could grab Curse. Curse does have a couple downsides, I will say. What are those downsides, you'll say? One, it does proc retaliation attacks. So if you run up to an enemy and curse them, they will retaliate against you. But it does Sunder Defense, Sunder Resist. So those are generally pretty good. But, just proccing retaliation attack is not very good. You can increase the debuffs here, attacks and debuff abilities. So, you can make this Sundering Sweep pretty good. But remember when Decay was changed from 1 stack to 4 stacks? Unfortunately, Hexa Decay was not changed. So now instead of getting a full Decay in an AoE, you now get 1 Decay in an AoE. So even if you ran up and you did your Sundering Sweep to 3 enemies to fully healing debuff all of them, that doesn't unfortunately work anymore. You can run up and mass curse enemies, and maybe you can mass curse them, then Sundering Sweep them, and I guess it's just yeah, sure, I guess. Down here it gets really pathetic. Now you can use magic and support abilities while engaged in melee. Well, that should have just been a part of the class to begin with, because I feel like that's kind of his whole identity. But okay, you have to put another skill point into it. What I'm saying is just use this. Maybe you could put 3 points into this to get Bone Wyvern Keeper. After that, I would not really recommend you do anything more. Until next expansion, he might get a rework. If you're watching this video and it's next expansion, you're very confused because Death Knight got a rework. Well, oops. You know, I can only make so many videos. That's Death Knight. We're not going to talk about Death Knight too much. Now, I did just go over Warrior. I did just go over Defender. I did just go over Death Knight. Okay, with that in mind,
starts here.
Can you then go Wizard King, Dragon Lord, and Giants King with everything I just said? Yeah, there you can. All of these are very applicable. You can go Giant King Warrior and do everything I just said. You can do Giant King Defender and do everything I just said. I'd definitely go Warrior instead of Defender. But Defender, I've seen Giant King Defenders. They're not as good as Warriors, but they're fine. I've seen, ironically, some Dragon Lord Defenders. They're irritating. I can tell you that much. They're annoying. I don't know how good they are. They're certainly annoying. I think people tend to build their Dragon Lords too tanky. And then, ironically, they kind of get ignored because you got this, like, 300 HP, 90 defense Dragon Lord, and you're like, I'm gonna just walk away. And he's like, no, hit me, proc my retaliations. And you're like, no, I'm gonna walk away. Okay, so, now, Champion, Wizard King. Who is number 4? Who is number 4? Well, it's actually Warlock. I'm going to say the 4th best class to go on your Lord is Warlock. Why Warlock? Good question. Why Warlock?
Choose your first.
Okay, I just said range is bad. I just said magic doesn't really scale the best. Well, I didn't actually say that, but I don't like magic. Magic makes you lame. Real men grab a big-ass sword and hit their enemies in melee. So if you don't do that, I mean, there must be something wrong with you, clearly. But let's say you're weird. You're a weird dude. You decide, I want to go magic. I actually use Warlock a lot because I actually think he's kind of fun. But what makes Warlock so good? Warlock. Do go an orb on Warlock, by the way, because then you can run around at 48 movement speed. Certainly better than 32. 50% better than 32, in fact. Warlock level 1 isn't so great. Level 2 Warlock, still not so great. Level 3 Warlock, not so great. Gets better, definitely gets better. Level 1 Warlock does have some advantages. He gets like a 10 HP heal. So, you know, he starts getting there. Level 2 Warlock, you know, we get this reclaiming attacks. If you triple attack an enemy, that's 10, 10, 10. That is a lot of healing, right? Level 3 Warlock. Why does he turn on so hard at level 3? He gets Bone Wyvern Keeper, is not what I'm about to say. Bone Wyvern, summon a Bone Wyvern, it's okay. I mean, they do decent damage, they run around, they're annoying. Nah, who cares? Forget about that. Summon 2 zombies at the start of the battle. Ooh, zombies. Ooh, zombies. So that's 60 HP, twice, of undead fodder at the start of every single battle. Now, remember what I said earlier. Melee is very strong. Locks enemies in melee. Their retaliation attacks only hit one enemy at a time, so the more melee you have, the more retaliation you can ignore. Personally, these zomboys just kind of don't scale the greatest. Well, I shouldn't say that. Why did I say that? That's stupid. Ignore what I just said. I have no idea what I said that. The zombies do scale very well. I think some people think that zombies don't scale the greatest. These zombies, these dudes right here, these dudes you get for free at the start of every battle, get every enchantment. If you're playing Warlocks in a melee build and you enchant all your melee, these zomboys get every single enchantment. If you racially evolve your race, if you transform your people, these zomboys get every single evolution, every single transformation. Turn yourself into plants, they're plant zombies. Turn yourself into dragons, they're dragon zombies. Turn yourself into demons, they're demon zombies. Turn yourself into undead, they're undead zombies. That last one is kind of obvious, but yeah, actually that is how it works. They get Whiteborn, so they do become undead zombies. I don't know if that's like undead zombies. Okay, anyway. Some people think these zombies don't scale very well, but they do scale very well. And not only do they scale very well, after you go over here and get Raise Undead, they get unstable summons. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After you are level 5 on a Warlock, you get Decaying Dissolution. How good is Decaying Dissolution? Very good and very frustrating and very powerful. These crappy zombies that you throw into the front of the battle, and remember, I did talk about melee being very good. They're going to clog up the enemy. They're going to block their melee. They're going to get their range units into zone of control. They're going to block people from using abilities. They're so frustrated. And even once the enemy kills them, you get this Decaying Dissolution. When this unit dies, adjacent enemies suffer 15 blight damage and 2 decaying. This is all summoned units by the Warlock. If you get an item that allows you to summon an animal, that little squirrel is going to blow up in a blight sphere. If you get a thing that summons anything, you can summon Umbral, you can summon a squirrel, you can summon a boar, you can summon a floral creature. The enemies kill them, blows up for blight damage and 2x decaying. This is quite frustrating to fight. Warlocks are very, very deadly in the early game. This makes them outrageously good at clearing the early game. Then, later on, if you're afraid of your Warlock being squishy, you can get Graceful Serpents, which, whenever a friendly unit dies, this unit gets a stack of Grace. This makes them kind of hard to focus down until people start getting one-shot abilities. Then we've got Claim Soul. Holy crap. Claim Soul is a magic single-shot ability. Now, it's not base, but a lot of magic effects don't care about that. A magic single-shot ability does a lot of damage. All those magic items, all those magic effects, those chests that give you 20% more magic applies to this. If you were to go over here for culling magic, is increased for single shot. This ability is one of the highest damage, I swear to you, this is like one of the highest damage magic nukes in the game. And if it kills an enemy, it refreshes all your cooldowns, heals you, and instantly revives that target as a Whiteborn. Not only does this completely deny revive effects, but holy crap, if you kill like an enemy unit that's like a good unit and you revive it with Claim Soul, like that swings the battle so hard. In early combats, Claim Soul craps on enemies. As a single action point, only range 3, but as a single action point, this is so good at screwing over enemies and just completely swinging a battle for a win. Okay, so the right side of the tree, this is like Death Knight on hyper crack, okay? Death Knight would never compare to this. Let's talk about the left side of the tree. Now, if you're an Eldritch or you're a Dragon, I have seen people use the Blood Pack side of the tree to get more damage to themselves. I have also seen the Hex Pack side. People argue both sides. Let's start by talking about the Hex Pack side, okay? Link to a target enemy unit. Each turn they suffer 1 misfortune, 1 sundered defense, 1 sundered resistance. Now this does start the game pretty strong because you link pretty early, and then from there on it just goes from there. As the game progresses, as everybody starts spamming more and more buffs, well, 1 misfortune when 1 sunder per turn is not really the biggest deal, but you can put more points into it. They automatically get negative 10 morale each turn. That's pretty annoying. All your attacks and all your abilities get morale drain. That's, I do believe, I'd have to actually check this. I do believe that stacks, of course, with our good pal, Tome of the Doom Herald, because Joy Siphoners, yeah, that should stack with it completely. So if you were to get Joy Siphoners and you were to get Draining Magic, your single shots would be draining 7 morale, and if you hit someone 3 times, that's 21 morale you would drain. That's a lot of morale. Over here is a pretty annoying one too. If enemy has low morale or worse, you just pop up a Corrupt Soul right next to them. And remember that Corrupt Soul will get Decaying Dissolution, and I do believe this one doesn't actually say it, but I think this one is actually a permanent battlefield summon. Corrupt Souls aren't exactly the strongest enemies, right? But getting one for free that just sits there and immediately starts morale draining you again, pretty annoying. You also get Vicious Killer, which does synergize with Claim Soul. You get Vicious Killer, Will Breaker, run up, claim an enemy's soul, everyone gets a huge morale bomb. Enemy gets AoE weakened. Enemies get AoE Remorse, that's pretty annoying. And of course, you've got Bend Broken Will. This is quite annoying if you're doing a morale build. Target enemy unit with low morale or worse gets a 120% chance of becoming dominated as a free action. That's pretty annoying to fight, I imagine. So the Hex Pact has a pretty strong morale bombing route here. If you do not want to go with the morale bombing route, you can, of course. Magic attacks and debuff abilities have a large chance of inflicting misfortune, as well as this one, which is kind of weirdly strong. You get Cruel, making you do more damage to enemies with low morale, and whenever any enemy unit fumbles, you get +5 max hit points until the end of combat. Now, the only downside of this route is having 9,000 HP, but not really being able to do much damage, and also being able to be locked into melee isn't really the strongest thing. If enemies have given you like 200-300 HP on a Warlock, but they're also running in melee and locking you down, it's not the greatest. So this seems really strong until you actually think about it for a second. If you actually lose a battle, they're just going to lock you in melee and beat you to death. Okay. But we, of course, have weakening magic, allowing you to weaken enemies, not the strongest. We do have chaos magic. If enemies have weakened, sundered defense, or sundered resist, they automatically get a +1 stack on it. Ironically, not the strongest, because again, as battles start going on and on, enemies will start having like 5 stacks of bolster and stuff. Now, if they don't have that, this can get kind of decent, because it does allow you to like triple hit an enemy, and then each hit will sunder them more, making the next hit deal more. It's okay. Magic attacks ignore 1 status resist. I feel like this could be buffed. But what is the end of Hex Pact? What makes it so good? The end, I would actually say, that can make this so frustrating for enemies. Hex Pact gains, target suffers disrupted. An unresistible disrupted. I think this is the only one that's ever existed in the game. Unresistible disrupted. That's crazy, actually. This means if your enemies have some sort of steadfast effect, not like an affinity one, but like they have the Thomas Sanctuary, you can whack them with your Hex Pact. This disrupts every buff they have, every enchantment they have, automatically turns off, makes them quite squishy, and then you can just obliterate them. Now, of course, Hex Pact does have cooldown too, but this can be kind of really strong, actually. This makes a Warlock like weirdly good. I need to tell you all what Warlock does, because a lot of people don't really understand everything it's doing. It's doing a lot. Now, of course, we got the middle of the tree. So you got Hex Pact, which can go into Withering Magic. Every attack and debuff automatically applies a status vulnerability, which is okay. Then, of course, we got Curse, which is okay. AoE, automatic 2 decay, 1 AP, usable at range. It's fine. I tend to ignore it sometimes. You also got this one, Hex Seeking Bolt. You Hex Pact an enemy, you automatically hit them. They can't dodge, 100% hit chance, which can be pretty good. If you're using Hex Pact to just like nuke someone out of the game, that can be pretty good. You put it down early in a battle, later on, once you have a difficult target to hit, you boop, Hex Seeking Bolt, bam, bam, bam. You ignore 3 status resist as well, so it's pretty easy. Like you Hex Pact an enemy, maybe bend Broken Will to get 100% chance. It's versatile. Withering Magic is pretty good. Both of these, I would say, I tend to go down like this route. Like I tend to go like that, because I really like Empowered Pacts for just screwing over an enemy late game. I really like Claim Soul. I really like the combo Claim Soul and Will Breaker as well. And Feed on Despair is fine, but sometimes it can be really rough to get enemies actually misfortuned. So that, of course, leads to Infectious Affliction, which is not the strongest debuff I've ever seen in my life. If you want me to be honest with you, it's firmly underwhelming to me. I feel like it could be better if it was made into a single shot, so it applied debuffs way harder from the rest of your tree. All connected units can sometimes be devastating, but often means like maybe 2 or 3 people. Not the biggest deal, is what I'm trying to say. Especially because it ends your turn. If you had at least 1 attack after this to hit a diseased enemy, maybe, but like, ugh. Sometimes I just don't even go this. So that leads us to the Blood Pact. Now, why is Blood Pact sometimes used on Eldritch, on Dragon. I've even seen Giant Kings do this to middling success. Bloodbacked. Okay, so Bloodbacked is part of Warlock, and this is what helps him scale as a crazy strong late game build. Bloodbacked, link with target friendly unit. Straight debuff. Any damage dealt to you is dealt to that unit. However, for the duration, you get 20% damage and ignore 2 status resist. Why is that strong, you might be asking? Because that's just free indefinitely. So long as you don't get yourself double nuked, which some people have done, which is funny to me. But as long as you don't get yourself double nuked by having yourself hit, which then kills you and the person you bloodbacked with, you get a flat 20% damage modifier and 2 status resist. That's pretty strong. Right up on the next point, you can grab the target gets lifesteal and resurgence. I found the resurgence to be buggy and not always work, but the general idea here is you hex back to someone, they run up, start hitting enemies, get heals. It's okay. I'm not exactly overwhelmed by it. Now, you can do Blood Pact into Withering Magic, into Curse. I don't know. I mean, I just don't really think Curse is really that big a deal. Attacks and debuff abilities to spell a positive status effect. It feels like that was made for Curse, but honestly, like, I don't think using your Lord's entire turn to do some slight debuffing is a good use of your time. When other Lords could be running up and killing 2 units, you should not be spending your entire turn being like, here's a debuff. Like, your best use of your turn is like, I don't know, like using your zombies to buy time into maybe a Raise Dead or summon animals, into a Claim Soul, into another Raise Dead. Like, you can create like outrageous field pressure with a Warlock, but using your entire turn for a Curse is like, take this. I only think Curse would be good is if it was maybe 7 range, and then it would just be really annoying to fight. I don't know. It's just, to me, I don't know. At any rate, once you go Blood Pact, we got this one. Now, this is when I think the right side is way better. You can Siphon Blessing, steal all positive status effects, and have 1 ability point remaining. So if you're using a staff, you can yoink all their shit and then have a hit remaining. This is really good for countering Steadfast. This is really good for trying to hit really tanky targets who've been buffed with everything, to just yoink everything they have. This is really good for a lot of different things. Particularly sometimes when you yoink Steadfast, it wears off on your turn, but sometimes you keep it to the next turn. I haven't really figured that one out. Anyway, pretty good. The other option is to go down here. And of course, like, this is what I'm saying, this Warlock is so interesting. Like, you're gonna have to make your own build. You might be noticing, I love all the hero classes, but Warlock, you're my favorite, and by a lot. So over here, as you might imagine, you're doing 20% more damage, but over here, ooh, +1 blight damage per negative status effect on the target, and those effects are increased for single shot attacks. Whoopee, kaboom, kapow, kabang. Now imagine, this does stack to 5. It does seem to have a 5 limit, which is annoying to me. But if you have 5 debuffs on the enemy, that's 5 damage, double to 10 on a Claim Soul. That's a big one. It's also all attacks and debuffs, which does affect Curse, which is... Maybe Curse should be considered magic, so it actually gets buffed by like magic effects. I don't know, that might be cool. Because, you know, it is magic. I think a Curse is magic. Down here we get War Seeker. Now, of course, you have Culling Magic, Pact of Eternal Servitude, and Blood Pact. This is when this can kind of start getting good on a Dragon Lord or a Giant King or an Eldritch particularly, because once you have War Seeker and you have all this damage and stuff like that, 20% more damage and all this flat damage, like War Seeker starts becoming a little bit more interesting. Now, I don't like Giant Kings can be a bit screwy because they're big AoE. When they use their totem, it's never a single shot, it's just an AoE. So for them, it can be a bit screwy. I have tried, like, people have tried Warlock Giant King. I did it once to middling success. If you do get War Seeker stacks, it can be fine, I guess. I don't know. And then you can just go down here and get status resist, status resist and regular resist. And then, yeah. Reasonably, I find decaying magic to be odd. Considering this route is about killing enemies, it's like kill an enemy, get War Seeker. And then this one is like, do you want to debuff their healing? It's like, no, man. No, I don't. No, I want to be killing them. So the rest of this tree has some, shall we say, questionable scaling, right? But like, at least boom, 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 these fit, right? Like bam, 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 these are all like great. Then you go down to decay enemies. This one's okay. If you're not engaged in melee when your turn starts, you get +1 range on magic attacks and abilities until you move. It's okay. I guess it can kind of sometimes take enemies by surprise for like giga long range curses maybe. Other than that, I actually didn't find it too useful. I think it's best to just go back down to here. This is kind of be a wasted point, but you can go into resistance, just be tankier, that's good. Gray and Blood Pack gets crit, that's pretty good. So this side is going to be a bit weird because you only have a couple points to put into it. But that's how I generally, God, it's so weird because you get into this weird situation. If you go Siphon Blessing, which is quite good, you can't go Curse. And if you don't go Curse, then you're kind of like limited as to how many points you can put into it. And that's why the Blood Pack side is odd, because if you're not playing a Giant King and you're not playing an Eldritch, you're not playing a Dragon, then there's not many points you can put into Magic. Because Wizard King, Champion, like there's nothing over here to get magical abilities. So if I can only put realistically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points into my damage build, then I have to put all my points down here to go to Claim Soul, and Claim Soul is good, but now Claim Soul resets all my ability cooldowns. Wait a minute, I don't have any ability cooldowns. Unless I go this route. You see the point? Okay, so Blood Pact is really good if you're doing a specialized ruler. I would say otherwise, realistically, go Hex Pact. Unless you just want to be big, funny damage guy. So Warlock, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to show you like specific builds or anything. You can kind of make this stuff up on your own. It's kind of, you know, paint by numbers. There's not much, you know, creativity to go here. It's like choose a build and then put the points in that build, right? So Warlock, pretty solid dude. Warlock, I spent a lot of time talking about him because Warlock, I just love Warlock. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about Ritualist, but I don't personally believe Ritualist should be your Lord. I think Ritualist Lord is kind of a waste. He doesn't tend to clear very well. He needs other people in front of him. He and or she just isn't the greatest. But there is, like, Ritualist as your second Lord is fine. Second hero is fine. I just wouldn't pick him as your Lord itself. It's just not the greatest. But let's talk about Ritualist. Just so you guys know how to level him, right? I mean, again, don't pick Ritualist on your Lord. There are some brief exceptions. I have seen Ritualist on like Eldritch. I've seen Ritualist on like Dragon. They can do some funny things. Funny things. But realistically, nah. It's very niche, so to speak. So what makes Ritualist as compared to before when it was called a different class, what makes him pretty good? Or I should say pretty bad as an early leveler. So Ritualist doesn't have the healing anymore that it used to have when it was called a different class. It doesn't have really anything anymore. I'm just gonna level myself up a few times here. Level 7 Ritualist. Okay, so there's two choices here. You've got Restore, which heals one target. I think Rejuvenate is better in most situations. Rejuvenate is good. Rejuvenate gives regeneration, is good. You could go with Restore, and then Restore heals more. That's 50. Then over here, that could be up to 75 healing. These are big numbers. I still think Rejuvenate is better. You do like an AoE little regeneration. You do an AoE heal. You do an AoE minor cleanse. That's just, in my opinion, generally better. You get a little bit of strength in. Okay. Now, all support abilities get a bolstered defense. This one's a really good point. Decompose, in my opinion, is one of the strongest aspects of Ritualist. 0 AP, destroy a body, deny any sort of revive. Then it gets even better because you're now healing in a 2 hex radius, 10 hit points, and giving regeneration. And oh wait, it's a support ability, so all these support effects as we get down the tree will apply. So 1 regeneration, 2 regeneration. Down here it'll heal 50% more, so it'll actually heal for 15. And we got the All support abilities get strengthened. So that's a strengthened stack right here. That's a bolster defense stack right here. Once you get a staff, that could be even stronger. A lot of good things. Now, when we get to reincarnate versus polymorph, my personal opinion is I hate both of them. Okay, let's level up a little bit more. I would call that generally your early picks. You can go with like a leveling build where you just go for the single target heal. I don't think that's a bad idea to go for the single target heal, personally speaking, because you can use that on like your Lord to heal him up to full. But I think the other ones are just gonna kind of be better. So what do we do once we're max level? This is Death Ward. If nothing else, it's a single target ability that can just apply all your support buffs to everyone. Ritualist Strength is generally good. Natural Vitality makes you tankier. Rite of Fury. Now, why is Rite of Fury good? That's one turn of Hastened, which lets you cruise across the battlefield and hit anyone, and it globally applies all your buffs. Now, is that better or is that worse than the other ones? Really depends, but I would say generally it's better. It's not generally better because one turn of Hastened is so crazy. I would say it's generally better because Rite of Vigil is not very strong, and Rite of Restoration is not very strong. I'd say it wins by being like the least bad of your three options. That's my opinion. Now, once you have a build like this on a Ritualist, what do you do from here? How do we continue to scale them? I would say go Protective Wild Growth because it does count as a support ability, meaning you apply Regeneration, apply Strengthened, apply Bolstered Resist. These are all good. You can easily apply, let's see here, this one, Graceful Wild Growth. Now you give Grace to everybody as well. That's pretty tanky. You can go Fey Growth, or you can also grow, which are the options here? Oh god, there's so many options here. You can give allies True Strike, or you can give allies the Fey Growth that just makes them obscuring, which just makes them harder to hit by range. At this point, you really don't need to put many more points into it. You can make it a larger AoE. Personal opinion, I don't really like doing that. At this point, I'd probably just grab these and then put points over here on the left. Even going to Fey Growth can be a bit weird. Just put 2 points into it. It just AoE applies all your buffs, all your support effects, and then gives everybody grace. I would say, generally speaking, this is about what you should do. Then go over here and just put points over here on the left. Take a lot of these things on the right. If your order, you should have some pretty good options for that one. Mending Touch, the Dome, maybe give yourself Steadfast so you don't die. Just grab all of these. Everything's good, right? Okay. Ritualist, not too complicated. Realistically, at the end of the day, you're either going to choose Reincarnate or going to choose Polymorph. Both of them are going to be frustrating. Reincarnate because you don't want to raise your dudes as animals because it's not very fun. And then the other one, Polymorph, because it's going to be resisted like 99% of the time. Okay, the last character I'm actually going to recommend, in my opinion, the last character I'll actually recommend as a Lord is...
Your journey.
Well, who do you think? Who do you think is the last hero class I would actually recommend as a Lord? Well, for those who've watched my videos and those of you who've actually paid attention to me, you would know that I can't find the hero I keep using. There we go. You would notice that I do recommend one dude, even though he's not the greatest. It is our good pal, Ranger. So Ranger doesn't clear well. He's very slow. He's got some janky crap. Now, let's talk about Ranger. I've looked through all his different weapons. Which is the best weapons for Ranger? So you've got bow. Bow sucks. Don't use bow. You've got javelin. Javelin is the highest damage for your special abilities. Ranger has a special ability. Javelin and ironically Sword and Net have the highest damage conversion into them. They also have the downside that you cannot unfortunately use a mount. If you do want to use a mount, your highest damage conversions are ironically a regular crossbow, but not Hunter's crossbow, because Hunter's crossbow actually does low damage because it is Giant Slayer. So don't use Hunter's crossbow. But there is actually Sword and Crossbow. Sword and Crossbow allows you to retaliate, which makes your Ranger a little bit less squishy, allows him to whack other people in melee, And when you use one of your special abilities at range, it does pretty good damage. In addition here, sword and crossbow shoots for 22 damage, whereas the hunter's crossbow shoots for 20 damage. At least it is Giant Slayer. Sword and crossbow I'd recommend is your generically best option. Now if you do have a way to get your lord a mount very easily, then you can go crowbow. And if you feel lucky that you'll just RNG a good mount early, then you can go crowbow. Crowbow, of course, has a unique effect where it summons a Grimbeak crow at the start of every single battle, which is ironically really useful. That's not even ironically. I don't even know why I said ironically. It's just really useful. It's just a really useful thing. Yeah, Crowmaster's bow is just super good, but you don't start with that mount, so you have some problems here. But if we do go sword and crossbow, how do we make this dude good then? I have a build that I really like on Ranger. There is one particular build that is so devastating, so mobile, and makes Ranger... Now, we're not talking about true shot. We're not talking about stand still and shoot people at range. You can do that, and I think it's totally fine. But, of course, there are some drawbacks to that one. But what is, then, a really good Ranger build? Early in the game, you're going to suck because you're a Ranger. There's just not much you can do about that. You're a Ranger. You basically do less damage than a Warrior at range. Normally, doing the same damage at range would be a good thing. But in this game, particularly in the early game, doing the same damage at range is a bad thing because the warrior gets to lock people down in melee with him, and he gets pretty good tankiness early on. But I would recommend, if you are playing Ranger, there's one stupid build that I think is quite good. We're looking at a 4-point build, Scatter Shot. Now you see how much damage a Scatter Shot does? Not that amazing, but it is considered a base attack. So if we grab Zeal here, we now have the option to do 1 AP to shoot a pretty decent damage crossbow, or every 3 turns we can scatter shot enemies. Now once we get over here piercing shot, our scatter shot penetrates 50% of all armor. That's pretty good. Big Game Hunter allows us to get a flat damage modifier. We get +1 damage for each unit tier of the target. Hit a tier 1 unit, 1 damage. Hit a tier 3 unit, 3 damage. Heroes are always counted as tier 5. So for example, that's 5 damage doubled. The shoot crossbow could run into the back of an enemy hero and do 36 plus 4 for 40 damage. Not really that amazing when you compare it to a warrior though, which I'm hoping kind of leads you to the issue. But there is exactly one build I really like on Ranger. What is that build? Let's look right here. It's this. Why this? So we get to scatter shot, we get to run around the entire map, and 1 AP, bam, shoot enemies with an AoE. This AoE will do pretty good damage due to piercing shot and Big Game Hunter. Invigorating takedown will mean every time we kill an enemy, we get regeneration and strengthened. So we can easily get more strengthened, and we can keep regeneration going on ourselves to top ourselves off from any hypothetical damage enemies could try to hit on us. Then we have kill shot. Each time we kill an enemy, we reset our cooldowns. AoE a pack of enemies, get a last hit. Next turn, AoE the pack of enemies, get a last hit. Next turn, AoE a pack of enemies, get a last hit. It actually is pretty frustrating for enemies. Now, how do we scale this into late game? How do we take this build and turn this into a late game build, which actually allows Ranger to be a carry? Why would I want to be a Ranger Lord versus a Warrior Lord? Why would I want to struggle bust my way through the game and do that? Well, it's pretty simple. Do you see what I just did here? No, you don't. You probably want 1 point in this at some point as well, just for rounding purposes. This build right here, and we're not even done with the build. You don't need to go this route because you're never going to stand still. You're going to run up and AoE every single turn, and you're going to keep yourself out of danger by running up and AoEing every single turn. What do we see here? We have 20% more crit. Okay. Every time we crit an enemy, we do 10% more crit damage, stacks up to 5 times. This is effectively, once we crit 5 times, we will do 200% damage crits instead of 150%. This is, whenever we kill a unit, we get 3 fortune. Okay. This is, whenever we do a critical hit, we heal ourselves and get strengthened. Okay. This is melee attacks do more damage as a target loses health, which just generally lets us use melee as a finisher. But why am I going down this whole route then? Kill shot! Go for the kill. Attacks deal 50% more damage until the end of the current turn. Wait a minute. Go for the kill. Kill shot. Scatter shot. We run around, AoE attack enemies. Well, I should say we run around, go for the kill, AoE attack enemies, do like giga damage, do these big giga crits, hit everyone really hard because we're piercing them. Then the next turn, oh wait, we can go for the kill and scatter shot again. The next turn, you might not believe this, go for the kill, scatter shot again. Next turn, go for the kill, scatter shot again. Oh, you might be saying, that sounds really annoying. Yeah, it is, and it's very fun. Then you can just spend the rest of your points going down here, which is fine. I mean, they rearranged it a bit, so it's like much harder to reach Ranger 2, but you do have defense 1, and your defenses give you a lot of evasion, so it's just a little bit of help. You can also do skirmisher training if you want. It's kind of annoying because, like, when a defender uses a pike, they get charge defense and they get first strike and they get anti-large on the pike. But if you use a skirmisher weapon on a ranger, you don't actually get the benefits of being a skirmisher, which is kind of annoying, I won't lie to you. But you can go down here, you can get melee attacks, give prepared shot, range attacks, give prepared strike. You can use prepared shot, and like if you retaliate against an enemy, you get prepared shot, but you're kind of relying on your enemies being, well, frankly, dumb. And then none of this is flanking attacks deal 20% more damage. I mean, it's like, I'm not putting 3 points down for 20% more damage. Melee attacks don't retaliate. Melee attacks knock the enemies back. Deal more damage to units on negative status effect. Like, is a lot of points here. And at the end of the day, I just rather get the defense. And if you look down here, this is defense and evasion again, and then melee and physical range deal more damage. So 10% damage, 10% damage, 10% damage, that's 30%. On top of 3 defense, on top of 30% evasion. That's generally the best way to tank, and I don't really like this tree. So this is what I would recommend. Now, of course, it's not to say this is the only way to build your character. You can, of course, just go for the typical sniper shot, piercing shot. Now, do remember, if you are doing this, I would very, very, very much recommend that you don't use a gun, because piercing doesn't stack. You can't pierce twice. If you're using a gun, you'll go with a different build. But if you are, of course, doing sniper shot, you can go for a build like this. Sniper shot does have accuracy. You will have to go down here and grab go for the kill. I would once again just recommend go at this route. You probably want to grab Ranger 1 just to get damage multiplication. This one is a lot more points investment. You'll basically be unable to buff your army very much. One of the things I like about the scatter shot is you don't need these 3 points down here. So you can put them over here, finish this off a bit quicker, or buff your army a bit more. But if you just want to shoot people with a really big shot, you can do this with Javelin for the most damage, Net for the most damage. You can do this with a crossbow, sword and crossbow. That works really well. If you do want to use a gun, do remember that you cannot stack piercing. Now, you could go this route. That's stupid. I wouldn't recommend it at all. I don't know why scatter shot leads into barrage attacks. That doesn't make any sense. But if you're using a gun, you already get piercing. So you should go snapshot. That's just a free 0 AP, kapow, right? Pretty good. You can go with snapshot, knockback snapshot. I wouldn't recommend that. I think generally speaking, to me, I would just go disruptive to knock people out of defense mode, because that also gives you big game hunter. Bam. And then you just play as normal as if you were doing sniper shot. Now, guns have their own special ability. If you're playing a ranger, guns have their own special ability that effectively does the sniper shot effect. So if you're playing a gun, this build just allows you to knock people out of defense mode, get some good flat damage, and you don't actually have to go the rest of this route because you don't need snapshot every turn, so it's a bit screwy. AoE bleed is just not very strong though, so Realistically, this route would just save you a point because you wouldn't be going down here for a kill shot. Invigorating takedown can also be a bit wasteful, so this kind of saves you 1 point if it comes down to it. AoE bleed sure isn't that great. I think Thorn Shot would need to be 2 hexes. All enemies in a 2 hex radius get bleed. I could buy that one. That one wouldn't hurt me as much. But then after that, just do the same thing I recommend you do every time. It's not really too complicated, right? At this point, like you get the ranger idea, right? Okay. Now let's talk about the rest of the classes because I'm not going to be talking about them. Elementalist isn't good. We've gone over that. Max amount of sessions reached. Holy crap, I actually reached max saves. The game's like, you can't keep starting them. You can't keep getting away with it. Okay, I might start games a lot to experiment with stuff. Okay. Let's talk about Elementalist. Why do I not like Elementalist? Well, it's fairly obvious. Elementalist takes way too long to get going, and even once he gets going, he's just not as good as the other guys. Unlike, well, I should say like Ranger, he sits at range, doesn't outdamage melee, and because he's not outdamaging melee, but being in melee CCs enemies, so I guess you could say he could play safe at range, but generally speaking, when you're clearing the world, being at range isn't really being safe, it's just being cowardly. You kind of want your hero to be tanking because he's going to be your tankiest dude if you actually build him properly. He's also going to by far be your most damaging dude, right? So you definitely want that happening. Okay, so let's look at Elementalist. Why don't I think much of this dude? Okay, so we put 1 point in and it doesn't do anything. We could electrify enemies, which is okay. We can light the ground under them on fire. Who gives a shit? Like, okay, let's actually look at like a level 4 Elementalist. We looked at how strong a warrior gets. Now let's look at Elementalist. So we can go initiative order and grab Zeal. Zeal will affect all our abilities, including our evocation, so that's pretty good. So which one do we think is the best? I don't know. Discipline of Frost, chance to freeze. Chance to slow, that's decent, right? Focused evocation, hit one enemy with giga damage. So that's a 3 AP frozen. I mean, pretty good chance to freeze, I guess, against one target. So we're doing less damage than a warrior. It's not great. And then what do we do? I guess we give enemies status vulnerability. Well, you tell me, even if we were going arcane focus and we rounded this damage to 16 damage 3 times, remember, by now, the defender would be hitting for 20 and retaliating and running up and locking people in melee. So, you could say focused evocation, but focused evocation needs 3 AP. 3 AP to run up and freeze an enemy, or you play a warrior and you run up and just charge a dude and massacre them. Which one of these sounds better? Interesting choice. But let's say we don't go with that route. Okay, so we go with this route. We electrify enemies. And we do chaining evocation. We hit an enemy and 2 people next to them. Okay, so we obviously still want to get Zeal, because that's like one of our biggest sources of damage. So now we can hit 3 enemies for 22 damage each. At least in this situation, it sounds a little bit better than Warrior. Chance to electrify, chance to sunder. We're, you know, a little bit better. And then after this, we get magic attack as an ability to flex more damage against enemies. Oh no, wait. This is we afflict more debuffs to enemies that are already debuffed. Okay. So our basic attacks still don't do that much damage. We get 1 evocation of moderately acceptable damage, and we're 4 points into our tree. Now imagine we didn't even have Zeal. We didn't even have Zeal. Imagine that. You have to have 1 point in order to get Zeal. That's not great. But at least Fire Chain is cool, because it's a fire Chain. I don't know, that's pretty cool. I guess. Maybe we want to go with this one. Let's go with Blast Evocations. We AoE enemies for 20 damage. It's really not that much damage either. All of these are... You can maybe start to understand, perhaps, why a lot of people think this class is only playable as an Eldritch. Because if you're an Eldritch, or maybe you were a Dragon, at the very least, you'd have, like, some base damage to work with, right? But, okay, fine. Maybe the problem is I'm just not giving them time to scale. So we go this. Into Blast Evocation, we annihilate enemies with big AoEs. We go Withering Magic. We go Magic Attack, deal more damage. We do more damage, which leads into Inexorable Cast. We ignore 10 status resist. Wait a minute, this just sounds like... Ignore 10 status resist. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is just an Eldritch buffer. For automatic mind control. Wait a minute. Now Inexorable Cast allows you to ignore 3 resistance. Wait, if we don't have any base damage, ignoring resistance doesn't really help us, does it? So we do more damage on our crap damage attacks. We get 10% more damage on our crap damage attack. We get 3 pen on our crap damage. We get 10 status resist. For what? We don't have any spells that need status resist. Wait a minute. Literally, what do we need status resist for? This is only for Eldritch. Okay, fine. We go down here for Elemental Mastery. We gain Elemental Mastery. Okay, so I mean, in all honesty, okay, bam. We get some fire resist. We do way more fire damage on our basic attack, but not our abilities. Don't ask me why. And then we get Wildfire. Okay, now with this Wildfire, we get really good, right? Deals damage to target enemy unit and cascades. Inflicts 4 burning. I'll admit, this looks pretty devastating. 33 damage, resisted down to like 15, inflict 4 burning. You AoE like 5, 6, 7 units, maybe. You AoE 5 units and you realize this kind of sucks and isn't really doing any damage. And this is your big endgame nuke. Trust me, it doesn't really get any better with the other ones. So the problem with Elementalist is that unless you have Eldritch spells, Dragon Breaths, or maybe Giant Rock Throw, just a giant throwing a rock. Apparently this is like, apparently a giant picking up like an ice rock and chucking it at enemies is more powerful magic than like the ultimate lightning mastery. I don't know, dude. At any rate, there's just not much more to say. I mean, there's just really no way to make Elementalist work, unfortunately. I'm not going to go into builds or anything like that, because look, if you want to do Elementalist and you want to have fun with it, that's on you. Go do it. Like, that's fine. Like, don't let me stifle your creativity. Don't let me shove you in a bag or anything like that. But at the end of the day, you, me, we both know. You know, I know, we both know. Let's agree. Let's get together. Yeah, it's just without the base spells of other classes, just not very good. Okay, so let's move on to Spellblade. Mage with a shield. Is it any good? Is it any bad? It's bad. Shockingly, it's bad. So Spellblade was somewhat acceptably okay. For certain classes, maybe it was okay. Maybe it's like an assassin with a teleport. Like, there were definitely ways to make it work, but through a combination of power creep, and I would say through a combination of them just directly getting nerfed, unfortunately, Spellblade's not very good right now. So you are Mage with a shield, which allows you to hit people in melee. So, like, hypothetically, this could be good, right? What do we have here? Our helmet, because we went sword and shield, we start with a helmet. So we start with Lightning Evoker, 15 damage AoE, into Devastating Evocation, 27 damage. Somehow better than what Elementalist gets. Don't really understand that one. 30% more damage, in fact, than Elementalist. Here's the problem. We then put a point in electrifying enemies. Okay. Then spell penetration went from 3 spell pen to 1. That was really bad. Then we got melee mage, which is basically a non-point. Adaptive armor, which doesn't really help us. Because, like, unfortunately, if we get hit as a Spellblade, we're just gonna die. So we get Arc Fire Burst. All enemies within 2 hexes of you take damage, and you enter defense mode. That 30 damage is not going to matter for a lot, and it's not considered a base attack, and it's not considered a single shot attack, so unfortunately this ain't going to scale for shit, and it's not going to scale with anything. Because you might have noticed, this is base attacks, and... Okay, so go adaptive armor, so we're down 1 point, we're down 2 points, we're down 3 points. Half our goddamn points have done nothing so far. We get Spellblade expertise. Melee and magic attacks gain damage, and a defense, and an evasion. Okay, so this one's like a heavy hitter. Now, all our effects should be melee and magic, because frankly, we do melee and magic. So like, if they don't, that's not like a free, that's not like a gimme, that's like, that should just be how the game is by default. Now this goes down to opening strikes. Melee attacks now deal 50% extra damage. This is reduced as the target loses HP. Okay, we do that and go for the kill. Do you see the advantage here? Okay. Wait a minute. We would need quick phase. So we run up. We run up, teleport behind an enemy, use this 50% bonus damage, go for the kill, another 50% bonus damage, hit an enemy in the back with a flanking attack, kabam, you say, big damage. But how many skill points have we wasted to get here? And compared to a warrior, we're now just playing a warrior. So maybe you can do Arcane Skirmisher, melee against prepared spells, magic grants prepared strikes. So you run up, lightning evoke or an enemy. Gives you 20% more melee damage on your next turn. Teleport next turn. I mean, how many points is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. So you'd have to be level 9 for that one. That's pretty late in the game to get a funny thing. So then if you go to the left tree, unfortunately, melee attacks now sunder resistance. In what world do you run up to an enemy, hit them, and then pull back and sunder them? It doesn't make sense. You walk up to an enemy, sunder their resistance, and then what? And then you walk back and cast a spell? Okay. Melee magic attacks get 10% damage. That's good. And then we get flanking attacks deal more damage. Okay, so the flanking attacks deal more damage. That does help with go for the kill. Now we got one strategy with Spellblade. Teleport behind an enemy and one-shot them. That's the only play. We got the one strategy. Huh. And how many points will that be, actually? I forgot about that. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11 points. So it'd have to be level 9. And then, it's 12 points. 13 points. 14 points. 15 points. 16 points. That's a lot of points to do one trick of run up to an enemy and try to kill them in the back. And that's it. That's all Spellblade does. Now look, Magical Assassin is cool, and I like the idea thematically, but how do we live after this? We teleport behind an enemy and we one-shot them, and it's super cool. Nyaha, you say. Nyaha. Huh. Now, you could get Pyromancy into Wildfire Strikes. Wildfire Strikes gives your base attacks more damage. Now, this does have the unfortunate downside that that's 2 more points because we're wasting another point. Unless, like, burning an enemy that we're trying to one-shot is suddenly a good idea. Now, if we have gone down the left tree here, unfortunately, we don't have the hit points of the right tree. And if we do decide to go the right tree, unfortunately, we don't have this 10% damage, that 10% damage, and that 20% damage of flanking. Rough. But we do get knockback retaliations. We do get Retaliator. I mean, you see the problem with Spellblade? Like, you have to put so many points into this tree to get anywhere. And you can be a funny arcane assassin one-shotter, but the problem is they would basically need to remove an entire layer of skill points so that you can do everything you're trying to do like 2 levels earlier. And once again, as we keep talking about these level 4 power spikes, what's my level 4 power spike? I mean, it's basically Lightning Evoker, Devastating Evocation, and then Zeal, and then maybe instead Lightning Evoker, Devastating Evocation, maybe we use our affinity to get Spell Pen tier 4, so the Lightning Evocation does the most damage. We just run up and we zap enemies. We go zap, use our fingers, zap. You know, we got, it's okay. I'll grant you that. It's not the worst attack I've ever seen. It's just not the best attack I've ever seen. Okay, so that counters Spellblade. Now let's talk about Battle Saint. Why is Battle Saint just basically unplayable? Particularly as a Lord. So we talked about Warrior, and you guys saw me talk about Warrior, right? So what's making Battle Saint so bad? Well, what do you think is the complete opposite of a level 4 power spike? The complete opposite of a level 4 power spike would be a level 4, now my character does something. If you want to play a healing Battle Saint, a cleric, you're just better off going Ritualist, frankly. If you want to do a damage Battle Saint, a paladin, you're better off going like literally anything else. You could just go Defender. Just go Defender. It'll be way better. Just go Defender. So what exactly is the problem here? Let's talk about it. We're gonna have to level you up because it's gonna be really obvious. You guys notice how strong that warrior was? Now let's talk about paladin. Okay, so first off, we get fervor. Wait, that literally doesn't do anything. We don't get. Warrior at this point has 10 hit points and 10% damage. Let's keep that in mind. So Warrior is 10 hit points, 10% damage. Warrior's fervor. Now our ability actually heals us. Warrior at this point is 20% damage. Okay, so now we get Fervor's Martyr. So now we can actually generate enough fervor to use Warriors. Warrior at this point just got second wind. They can now heal 15 hit points for free at the start of the battle and 15 after each kill. But it's okay, we can heal 25 every other turn, but not on the first turn of battle, because we would need to actually build this fervor off getting our ass beat. So after we take like 30 damage, we can now heal 25. Whereas Warrior heals 15, runs up, kills an enemy, heals 15. Okay, and it doesn't get better. Because here's Initiative Order, here's Zeal. Do you notice the rather large difference? Defender at level 4, he's like, vroom vroom. Warrior at level 4, he's like, vroom vroom vroom. Warlock at level 4 is like, they just ran you over with a goddamn truck. The Warlock truck is just ran you the hell down. What does Battle Saint get at level 4? He literally sets up his own ability. Who has to put 3 points into making their ability work? So at any rate, Battle Saint I would call like F- giga fail, super fail tier. Nothing more to say. Okay. So, with all that said, with everything categorized, with everything in order, let's then talk about how I would rank them. Well, I mean, I already said I would rank them, but how would I rank them? Well, this. Warrior is number 1. Defender, I mean, Warrior is just the best. I mean, you guys have seen Warrior. He's just crazy. He's just level 4 power spike into level 20 hard carry. Does he hard carry as hard a defender? He got nerfed a little bit. maybe Defender is a little bit stronger in the late game now, but I'd argue he's only about as strong as Warrior. Defender, I mean, just that taunt ability is crazy in the early game. And then the 2 damage, the retaliation damage, the ability to taunt enemies into his retaliation, like it's synergy, right? Death Knight, he's just Warrior. He's just Warrior, but slightly different. Warlock, you gotta carry him through the early game, but once he gets to that double zombies, like it's just 2 zombies. It's a zomboids. Then you get the soul drain and blah, blah, blah. Ranger, he takes a little more setup. He takes a while to get going. He's never gonna clear as well as the others. He's never gonna do as much anything as the others. But once you get to that spamming the AoE every turn, his contribution to the battle is actually rather large. Ritualist, not as good as they used to be, I think. Healers used to be way better. I definitely agree before the patch. But they obviously had to get nerfed. But yeah, I mean, he's still a fine character. I just don't think he's like, I don't think Ritualist is like the hard carry they used to be. It used to be like hard carry as a healer and just generally make your entire battlefield an unkillable line of frustration. Then I think there's a very large gap. In fact, realistically, I mean, I should just say this. There's like these 4, big gap, these 2, big gap, these 2, who, okay. Spellblade's probably better than Elementalist, I'll give him that. But that's not saying a whole lot. Non-Eldritch Elementalist is not doing anything special. Battle Saint, I think, is the straight up worst lord to have in the entire game right now. He is miserable, terrible, obsoletable, bad-dable, not good define. That's all I have to say. So I would say these are your big ones. Here you go. That's my hero list. That's how I generally build, at least the good ones. So, oh boy, this is why I didn't want to go Eldritch. I knew it would be 2.5 hours if I did Eldritch, if I did Dragon Lord, if I did Giant King. So far as Dragon Lord and Giant King, reasonably, you can build them the exact same. Now, there is an argument for Knight, Charge, Dragon King. I have seen that before. You basically just charge in as Dragon King, enter defense mode after charging, get infinite retaliations, kill every enemy in front of you. I have seen that. It is a fine build. So if you want to do that as Dragon, it is viable. I don't know if it scales the greatest, but it is viable, okay? So once again, make sure to like, make sure to leave a comment, etc., etc. These things help me. Make sure to, I mean, just give me your opinion. Give me feedback on any of this. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody. And as always, have a great rest of your day.